rundown on camping in the Badlands in South Dakota, and kind of go over my favorite camp spots, pros, cons, and what you can expect. So in general, camping in the Badlands is great. It's actually my favorite place to camp, and the reason why is because there's hardly any bugs at all, because it's essentially kind of like a desert. But there are also not many trees for shade. It's pretty windy as a result. The summers can be scorching hot, and it can get kind of chilly at night. So you should make sure that you are outfitted properly when you camp in the Badlands. Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is Cedar Pass Campground, and this campsite is the only one within the park that you pay to stay there. It's good for both tents and RVs. They have some of the sites have electricity, and it is the only campsite within the park that offers showers. They are paid showers though. You need they're quarter operated, so bring a roll of quarters with you. Basically you put in your quarter and you get like 5 minutes of water, and then the water automatically shuts off. So if you like to take long showers, make sure you bring a lot of quarters. It's also the only campsite that has flushing toilets. It has water spigots, it has trash bins. As I mentioned, some of the campsites are electric. That top agate loop are the ones that have electricity, and it also has picnic tables, and each of the picnic tables has a windbreak on it because it does get quite windy. This campsite books up in the prime season, so you should reserve your campsite well in advance, and you can do that online. Most of the campsites are relatively flat. The big drawback to this area to camp is you can't have campfires. They're outlawed all year round. No campfires. You can have a camp stove, that's okay, but no fires. So cost. This one costs $23 a night for the tent sites, and that's with 2 people. If you have more than 2 people, I think there's like an upcharge of $5 a person. I'm not quite sure how that works because I've only camped with just 2 people. The RV sites that have electric are $38 a night for 2 people, and again, more than 2 people, I think you need to pay a little bit more. There are also nearby there's also group camping sites. I believe there are 4 of them, and this is for large groups of people traveling together. You can have up to 10 people for $40 a night. Stay there. There's a upcharge of $5 a person for everybody over 10 people, and they cap it at 26 people. That's the most people that you can have stay there. I'll put the website up so you can go there to book. The best sites. So I've camped at this place quite frequently, tent camping. I don't have an RV. So the upper loop is for tent and RV, and the lower loop is primarily for tent, just because the upper loop has electric. You can have an RV on the lower loop, I think, though. But on the lower loop, the very, very best site is site number 81. That's, in my opinion, the best site. Other good sites in that lower loop would be 77, 79, 76 is really near the bathroom, so if you need that, 76 would be the one to pick. 67, 66, 63, 62, 47, and 44. 44 has some shade, so those are all good flat sites that I recommend. The worst sites, the sites I think you should stay away from, and worst is relative. I mean, these aren't bad, but they have some drawbacks. So the worst sites are 74, 73, 71, 70, 59, 58, 57, 56, 55, 54, 53, 48, 45, and 43. And this is because either they're on somewhat of a hill, it's a slight hill, but a tent camper, you're not going to want to be on any sort of hill, or it sits kind of in the area of the park that tends to flood if you're getting rain. So if it's a dry season, most of these sites will be okay, but if it's wet, it floods and it gets messy. So I just stay away from those sites. On the top loop, those are the sites that have electricity. There are sites 1 through 39. The best site is number 1. Number 3 is by the water pump, if that's important to you. 28, 27, 26, 20, 19, 16, 17, and 15. Those I think are the best sites up there. The sites I don't like on that upper loop are 32, 29, 30, and 24, mostly due to the hill situation. I mean, I like a nice, flat, level campsite. Also, something to keep in mind, the sites that are on the outer side of the ring are probably the better ones to select because you'll have an unobstructed view of the surrounding area. If you get one that's on the inside of the ring, some big RV can come and park and block your view. So just something to think about. When you go online and you look at the map of the campsites, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about there. Another advantage to the Cedar Pass campground is that it's very near a restaurant. It's within walking distance. The restaurant is pretty good. It's not anything to write home about, but I felt like it was pretty good. And it's also by an amphitheater where during the peak camping times they do an evening stargazing show, which is really nice. And nearby the amphitheater there's actually some rock structures, badland formations that you can climb on. So that's Cedar Pass. It's a good place to stay. I really like it. Okay, the next campground I'm going to talk about is also within the park itself, and that's called Sage Creek. This campsite is free, and it's supposed to be just for tent campers. I have seen some RVs there, but the rules say tent camping only, so keep that in mind. It's kind of a long gravel road to get down there. It's a little bumpy, but it's not too bad. The campground itself is on a loop, and they have picnic tables with the windbreak set up. There are pit toilets, but not anything else. So the real draw here is that entire campground is very flat, and so it makes it really good for tents, and that there's also a ton of wildlife running through the area. So in the middle of that loop there's kind of a prairie dog town, and that's really neat to see all the prairie dogs, but you're also going to get bighorn sheep at night, coyotes possibly, and bison can walk right through your campsite. Be careful because there's also rattlesnakes, so just watch out. And in the surrounding hills there's lots of trails to explore. I think it's kind of a bit off the beaten path. It's not like real close to the other Badland formations, but it's not that far away. It's not on the main Highway 240. It's kind of off of it a little ways. The area can fill up in peak times, so you might get down there and discover that it's too full, and then you'll have to look elsewhere. Again, no campfires allowed here, but you can have camp stoves. My caution to this place is twofold. I'm only speaking about Verizon cell service, but there is no Verizon cell service there. I can't speak to any other provider, but that was my experience. And when it rains a lot, this turns into a mud hole. I would avoid it if it's particularly rainy. Okay, next I'm going to talk about Steer, Pasture, Overlook, dispersed camping area. This particular campsite is actually outside of the park, and full disclosure, I've not stayed there. I did research it heavily because I was looking at staying there, but I didn't actually stay there. But as I said, it is free to camp there. There's zero amenities at all. The road in is a dirt road. It looks like you're going into a cow pasture because that's essentially what it is. The way you know you're in the right place is you'll be driving on Highway 240, coming from Wall, going to the Badlands, and if you look to your left, you'll see campers and stuff up on the horizon, up on the hill, and that's how you know you've come to the right place. So yeah, and it's pretty easy to get to, but you have to really look hard to make sure that you're going in the right place. I ultimately didn't pick this campsite to stay at because I felt like of the two that I was researching that are outside the campgrounds, I felt like the other one, Nomad View, had the better views, but all the reviews I've ever seen of steer pastures say that the views are pretty good. I just felt like Nomad View was just teensy bit better. And so that's the one that I'm going to talk about next is Nomad View. And I've stayed here 2 times, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Again, this one is free to camp, no charge, but also 0 amenities. The road to get in, much like the steer pasture Overlook, is kind of looks like you're going into a cow pasture. The way you know you've come to the right place is you'll see 2 radio antennas off to the left side, and that's how you know where it is. So then when you see an entrance off the highway and the 2 antennas are directly, what do I want to say, perpendicular to you, you know you're in the right place. So you just follow that. You go over a cattle gate and follow it down. The road is pretty rough, or at least it was when I went. Very pitted, very bumpy. You have to go very slow. I had no problem in my SUV. A car probably wouldn't have any problem. I mean, obviously RVs, big 5th wheel RVs were going in there and able to do it. It just, I think it would be very, very rough for them, but I've never pulled one, so, you know. Anyway, so the cattle gate situation, when both times I went, the cattle gate was open. If you come and the cattle gate is closed, you can go ahead and open it up and drive through, but then just close it behind you. But if it's open when you get there, you don't need to worry about it. And this one, okay, so the reason why I think this one was better is it just has these, you're kind of camping on a cliff, and it has these magnificent views. But I would caution you, if you're camping with little kids who run off, you might want to think twice about this one, because the last time I was there, they had to call search and rescue because 2 kids fell off a cliff and they had to go rescue them because they couldn't climb back up. They were fine, but just something to keep in mind, because there is no safety. You're responsible for just not going off the edge of the cliff. But it's pretty cool there. And I did have Verizon cell service there, which was cool. And you can see wildlife there. We saw a lot of bighorn sheep, and we heard a lot of coyotes. And I can't see them. It's kind of cute. They sound like really distressed teenagers. Okay, let me see if I can get that for my family. And we saw a lot of buffalo down in the valley area, so it was very cool and very enjoyable. I loved it. Okay, so the last camping that I'm going to talk about is actually camping in the trail area. So the Badlands has lots of different trails that you can take, and some of them are longer, and 5-10 miles, and you can actually camp anywhere you want in those areas that you hike. And kind of like all the other free campgrounds I've told you about, you just need to watch out for wildlife, because they're going to be coming right through your campsite. You can't have a campfire, but you can have a camp stove. and just be aware of the weather situations. But I've not personally done that, but I know a lot of people do, and I think that would be pretty fun too, because you're kind of blazing your own trail, so to speak. But anyway, that is it for Badland camping. I totally love it there. It's probably my favorite place to camp of anywhere in the whole country. It's just magnificent. So I hope you love it too.